In a previous video, we looked at using a template in order to allow us to compare multiple different data types without having to create a bunch of overloaded methods and functions. Now, that worked really well for what we were doing. However, a user caught a mistake that I made because I was thinking of one thing but actually did another. So based upon that mistake, I want to go in and fix that and show you how easy it is to fix. Because even though we're using a template, we have the ability to still overload a method. Now, the issue came in, and you can see here that I have C style strings, literal strings. And what that did is that caused an issue with the fact that if I do a greater than or less than, I'm checking the pointer of those constant values, not the value of the string. Because a C style string is an array of characters, not an object. So what I have up above is the exact same thing I had before. I have max value, and I'm using a template data type T. I take two values of the same data type, and I check greater than or equal. Now, I did make one small change in that I'm going to print out the value here instead of printing out in my main function. That's the only real difference that you see here. And the reason I did that is if you look up at the top, you see that I'm specifying template. This way I can show you and prove that we're calling max value the template function or max value when we're going to pass in our C string and that it's working. And so this is just to verify which function we're actually calling. So right below my max value function that I use my template, I'm going to specify void max value. And this is the exact same thing that I would do if I was overloading another function. But instead of passing in the templated data type, I'm going to pass in the specific data type that I want to do something a little bit different. And that's because I need to use string compare instead of the greater than or less than symbol. So I'm going to say const char star, and I'm even going to use the same parameter names, v1 and v2. Of course, I could have used something completely different. It doesn't matter. Const pointer to characters and v2. Notice now I have C style string. And now I'm going to use string compare v1 comma v2. So with string compare, you get a negative value if your first value that you pass in is the bigger one. Positive value if the second value is the bigger one, and a 0 if it's the same. So what I'm just going to do is I'm going to use less than 0. Come over here, and I will see out okay. So I'm going to put in max value here, and I'm going to do some examples that I had before, like 3 comma 5, max value 3.14 comma 2.5. Okay, we had some of these examples before, but now we have some literal strings. So I'm going to run this. So my first two, I'm using the template because they're numeric values. And then in my second two values, I'm using the C string. Okay, so because I'm using the C string, ABC is showing as being bigger because it's -1. It doesn't matter what order I put it in. It figures it out. It shows the right one. What happens if I were to use a C++ string? So I'm going to create a string object for this just so it's nice and easy to work with. And I'm going to call this str1 equals ABC. And string object number 2 is going to be str2. And now I'm going to put in string 1 and string 2 in here. Click the run. And you'll notice it comes up as DEF is the bigger value, which is what you expect. Notice, however, that's using the template. And that's using that function because it is a string object, not an array of characters. So just something that's kind of interesting you want to look at. If you have a special situation, for example, like you're working with strings and you might have some literal strings or C-style strings in there, you can use a different method to make sure you're still accurate. So you can still overload even if you're using a template function. It's just a little bit of expanded information it's helpful to know about. So I wanted to provide that example for you. Thank you for the user who caught that error in my code. This happens to everyone. You start getting, kind of quick with things and you miss something obvious. So there's a great example of that.